Please repeat after me.
I,
Call your name, please.
William B.G.K. Harris,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that the testimonies I'm about to give
that the testimony I'm about to give
before the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Liberia
before the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Liberia
is the truth,
is the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you.
We want to say welcome, Reverend Harris. We appreciate you coming to serve as a witness before the TRC to share some of your thoughts and experiences with us. Direct experiences in Liberia maybe, and the diaspora, and your experience working with the community here, and all of that. All these processes are necessary for us to build consensus on the contentious issues in our national life, and also consensus on the way forward. That is why we appreciate it when Liberians come forward to assist us. It's a momentous task, and we have no illusion that we can do it alone. So we are very happy and we say welcome.
Thank you.
I will introduce the commissioners here present, and then before you do your presentation. John Stewart is at the far end of the table. Massa Washington next to him. Gerald Coleman, Omun Sila, and then myself, Jerome Fuedia. Can you please start by repeating your name, please, for our records?
My name is William B.G.K. Harris.
Where do you reside presently?
I presently reside in Beaufort, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta.
Yeah, date of birth, please.
April 11, 1953.
Of course, you are a reverend. Can you say which church, what do you do as a reverend?
I'm a senior pastor and founder of the International Christian Fellowship Ministries in Atlanta. It was founded about 22 years ago. But I'm also an engineer, electrical engineer by profession. I'm an author also, and a grant writer.
That's information for us. Engineer. Can you say when you migrated to the U.S.?
I migrated to the U.S. in September the 7th, 1974.
September 7, 1974.
1974.
Since then, you've been going and coming back?
Not repeatedly. I went in 1979, right about the time of the arrest riot. My father passed away, and I went to Liberia to bury him. And then I went in 2005. For the most part, during the whole Civil War process, I was quote unquote on some of the blacklist. Okay. So I could not really go home.
Okay.
I was looked for.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Witness, and you may kindly proceed with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson and the commissioners. I'd like to say thanks for allowing us to come to share some information with you. I really want to seize the opportunity to express our thanks and appreciation to the commissioners for your very hard work, even for your courage, and for your deep love. I want to underscore the deep love for your country, Liberia, because what you have committed yourself to do is not an easy task. As a pastor, I was just thinking on how much you will be loaded on in the sense of hearing all of these stories, and still manage to keep your sanity and your dignity and still try to conduct yourself in a way that is in the interest of our nation. So we want to say thank you so much for all that you do. May God grant you peace and the courage to see it to the end, what you are trying to do. So I want to thank the Advocates for Human Rights also. It's a very important organization that have spearheaded this process to bring the TRC to the diaspora. Commissioner Washington was very instrumental in the process. I got to meet her, and including you as the chairperson. And I've been very active in Atlanta in trying to promote the TRC concept in that part of the country. We have some successes. So I just want to say thank you so much. As I think about what will happen if we hadn't had this process in the United States, what the laws would have been to Liberia, a great laws with information that will help us seek some solutions. So I say thank you so much. I'd like to underscore that my testimony is going to be very different. In fact, you have some of the text. It's different in the sense that, as you heard me state, I did not live through the war in Liberia. I was away. But I can assure you, even though I wasn't in the war in the physical sense, I live it. I live it daily. And today I come to be the voice of so many pastors. The work of pastors and those who are in religious leadership positions, they are underestimated in the process of what we do. So today, as I share with you, I'm going to be giving you information and some insight how people are able to cope. Those that were in the war, once they get here, how they managed to cope to keep on moving forward. That's the role that I have played in a very unique manner since all of our turmoil. So there are 4 different areas that I'll be trying to touch upon today. I'll give you the background about myself. Then I want to give testimonies about my families, those that were displayed and those that died. And then I want to talk a bit about the diaspora experience, what we did here to help people adjust and cope. And then I want to talk about a few myths that characterize us as a people. I will not go into detail. I may highlight some of them, but they are all in your notes. Those are what I call myths that need to be expanded upon. And then lastly, I'll be giving some reflections, some opportunities to move forward as a nation, as a people. It's my hope that some of these suggestions will be considered and become part of whatever recommendation you may have. So with that in mind, I would like to begin with what I call the background. As I indicated, my name is William B. G.K. Harris. I must indicate that when I was born, my official document may not say BGK. Officially, when I was born, I was named William Benjamin Harris. That's my official. But I had an experience that I had to look back into my roots, and I took names from my 2 maternal grandparents who are indigenous. One comes from Grand Bassa, Riverside area, and one from Bopolu, which is the name that I got, Pakpo and Gamaslo. So just to share that. In the notes, I shared that one of my great-grandfather came from the United States, the Harris, that's the link, and the other grandfather came from the Congo, the Garanas. He was in route when the slave trade was abandoned, and he was taken as a child, and he was reared by the Lewises. And later on, he got his name Karanda. So I come from that part, and also my 2 maternal grandparents from Riverside, the Baza area, and also Bopolu, which had the link of Pele and Mandingo. Why I say that? Because we are a mixed people. Liberia have a lot of intermarriages, and it's very typical down that even if you ask the Irish Liberian who is not part of the whole indigenous group, it'd be very, very hard to find a Liberian that cannot find a link to any indigenous person. So I just want to highlight that we are all people. I consider Liberia as a melting pot. People come from all over to form that particular nation. I'm 55 years old, and I was born in Monrovia. But my family moved to Swakoko at a very early age, besides my older brothers and my sisters. So I consider Swakoko, Bon County, as my homeland. My father, the late Honorable Melvin Francis Harris Sr., he was an agriculturalist, and he also served in the House of Representatives from 1969 until his death, April 10, 1997. My mother, an agriculturalist, she's an agriculturalist also, but she's a nurse, raised a nurse. She opened many clinics up in the Banga area. My father died just about the right time. In fact, my birthday is April 11th. He died on the 10th. And I got a call hoping they would tell me happy birthday. They told me no, we called him to tell you that he's passed away. At that time, I was a senior in college, and I made plans to go home. And in fact, it was very difficult. When I got to Liberia, I saw the destruction. All of the things at the free port, or even at the airport, it was very difficult for me to get to town. Even the clothes that I carried, for me to wear, would have used that to bury my father because things were so destroyed. So the funeral services were very brief, very short, and because of the curfew and all of that, we buried my father, and I came back to the States thereafter. I wasn't a kid that, as an electrical engineer, I was expected to go back to work for PUA. Got in the contract and everything, and I just would graduate. But when I went home and saw the destructions, I said I better heed to the call to go to seminary. And so I left after graduation. I went on to seminary in Atlanta. I attended mission schools of Baptist and Total Lutheran Mission for elementary school. I went to BWI, there I did diploma in electronics. And then I got my BS.EE electrical engineering from Tuskegee Institute, Alabama, and also a master's degree in divinity from RTC in Atlanta. I'm married to the former Quita Talbot, and we have 7 children, including 3 college triplet daughters. So that's a little background as who I am. My rare passion is community work, a passion to work for unity and peace. And that's why I've done over the years. I've done that even against some of the odds, even got into trouble because of trying to help and do the will of the Lord. So what I will do now, I'll give you a few accounts of experiences, particularly with relatives during the April coup and during the Civil War. There's one in particular I'd like to start with about the 1980 coup. One of my older brothers, Charles B. Harris, Sr., he served in the Talbot government. He was the first person commissioned as Assistant Minister for Engineering. He was in charge of the engineering coup. And at the time of the coup, he was one of those that was shot. They went to his house, and they shot so many rounds through the house. They first touched his wife and kids, and just by few inches, the bullet missing while he was lying on the raffle in the house, and he was safe. As far as the 80 coup, my father-in-law, the late Wilmer Talbot, he was working at the, I think, General Auditing. He worked there for years. He was one of those because of his name. He was some sort of cousin to Talbot, but merely because of his name, he was put in jail, beaten. And so on this side, we had the problem of trying to find out what to do. In fact, to marry his daughter, I had to write and ask permission and through the consent of the mother to marry his daughter. So he was let go with other people, I think, during that large exodus of people that were in jail. And he never recovered from there. He was very sick. And during the preceding war, he died. And he died, they would do a hasty burial right at the eve of the house. Just a few weeks ago, my mother-in-law was able to go back to Liberia, and a few weeks ago, they had a proper burial for him, took him to bury him. So those are some of the challenges. Now, looking at the displacement during the Civil War, I will not give you details because some of them they are in your handout. But I just want to say my elderly mother, Josephine, at that time she was very sick when the war happened, and she had to flee with my sisters and a lot of other children, nieces, nephews, cousins, and they fled to Fender. And they were there with all of the great people and many, many people. Food were very difficult to come by. And finally, they were able to get in a big truck, they said, that came from Firestone, and they were able to put her in the front She was lucky, and everybody else were in the back from what she said. And they were heading towards Swakoko, where our home is. And when they got there, they couldn't get in our house. It was occupied. And they went on to Sajikwalita, which is neighboring town. And they were there for many months. And finally, they went to Danani. And then from Danani, in Ivory Coast. The family stayed there for a long time. While they were there, we had to give them moral, financial, and other support with a whole contingent. And when trouble came into Ivory Coast, we had to find a way to rent a house in Ghana. And they stayed in Ghana for a long time, and then we were able to get them back to Ivory Coast. My mother took sick, and she passed away in 99. She passed away, and we had to take her from there to bury her to Liberia. I couldn't go, but my other siblings went. Hannah, my older sister, she was the main one taking care of the family. She was very sick. I tried to get her over here. She came, and because of some of the lingering illnesses from the war and what they went through, and I tried to help her, and not too long after she came, she passed away in 2006. So that was a big party. Again, because of the Civil War, my brother, Charles Harris, he was here, and though begging to come home so that he could work with him because of his technical skills. He's a civil engineer. So he went back to work in Dole government. And while working in Dole government, of course, the war broke up again, and he was on a run for his life. He had many serious encounters, particularly at ELWA in the compound. While he was there, they identified him as being one of those government officers, and so they took him to the back. And they said, "We're going to kill you." And he said he never prayed hard, like he never prayed before that day. The man took the knife, was about to behead him, and he was praying the Lord's Prayer in 23rd Psalm. And the man just got confused, and the man left him. And from there, we were able to find a way to get him over. When my brother came, I didn't know who he was. I mean, I went to the airport, he had reduced, like we are heavy-set people. I didn't know him, but it was a devastating impact from the war. My cousin, Dogba Kamoka Rana Jr., he worked during the Civil War time frame or before them at Radio ERBC. He was a target on many occasions. He even mentioned about people telling him that just like they ate Kuangpa, they were going to eat him too. And he was put on the firing squad near JFK Hospital. But they were distracted by passerby, and he was let go. My cousin, Virginia Washington, he was beheaded. And we understand he was beheaded by Prince Johnson's group. They lived in Virginia area, and long time Stanley was in the militia. He had some of the military clothes, and there was a house in the back he had in there. When the folks came, they wanted to go in that back room, and he asked them not to go in there because there was some secret thing. And they got curious and went in there and they found all the military clothes, and they said he was a general. And so because of that, they beheaded him. I don't know the exact time, no date, but he was killed, I understand, by the Prince Johnson group. My cousin, Frederick Adjuvon, and his wife, Annie Somi Adjuvon, they were killed, I understand, in the Lofa area by Roosevelt Johnson's group. And I understand they were trying to escape from Banga area to Guinea. And they were killed on September the 21st, 1994, speaking to the daughter in Atlanta. And I understand I asked her who she heard about being responsible for that killing. She mentioned the name Benedictus William Jr. And I don't know who that is, but that's why she mentioned that was responsible for the death. My late uncle, Dr. Karano Sr., when the war took place, he was dragged and beaten unmercifully. And the worst thing that happened, he was very good at keeping history. He has many historical documents that could benefit this country, our country. While he was beaten from a house, the house was set on fire. And our family documents, a picture of our grandparents, he was the historian for the family, and a lot of that, everything got burned. with the house that was in Monrovia. You can join the row. Yeah, that thing house right there. Our family estate, the Harris family estate in Swakoko, that was used as Taylor's Sawyer checkpoint. You couldn't, because of it being right to the road and being high, so they blocked the place, and before you go to Bangau Pass to go anywhere, you had to go through the checkpoint. And we are told that so many persons were killed. They had a lineup. They took you in and asked you questions, and you were not answering right, or because of your name or whatever it is, they would take you at the back of the house, kill you, and throw you in the well that we had right near there. But after the Civil War, it was a problem to get the people off from our house and the land. But right now, we got relatives in the house, and it is secured. When I went home in 2005, it was so sad to see that my mother's and my father's grave, they had been vandalized. They said that my father and my mother had a lot of jewelry and a lot of money in the grave, so they broke it. They broke it, and so it was very sad. That's some of the things. So that's a little summary of what I mentioned about happening during the coup. I had two brothers. My father and my mother took a lot of people that children they took care of. They were considered our brothers and our sisters. But two of them, Jeremiah Harris and Stanley Harris, we heard they were killed. We don't know where they were killed or when, but we have had reports that those two brothers were killed. I want to share now, turn a bit to the diaspora aspect, the impact of the war on Liberians in the diaspora. Now, even though I'm going to focus on Atlanta area in particular, where I pastored over the last 20 years, I can rest assured to you that the scenario is typical throughout many cities in America, and that's what I said. I'm trying to be the voice for the work that pastors do with those that come from Liberia. Many Liberians who migrate to the U.S. Were dying in the U.S. shortly after they arrived. Now, I may just share with you that in the past, it was typical for students to come to the U.S., do 4 years or 2 years, and then go back. But since the 1980, it began a new wave, not only Liberia, throughout Africa, people begin to have more permanent stay here than coming for education and going back. And with the wave of wars across Africa, it even became a more concern. So we had to start to adjust ourselves to looking at permanent. And when people come, they got children, they got families, those same social needs. I always tell individuals, I say, just like the Americans, when time to go to any country, they carry everything. They carry the school, they carry the medical doctor, they carry the religion, everything. Unlike us, when we come, those same services that we have to have them to be able to cope. And so our people begin to come in to the area, 1980 in Atlanta area, and no services were available for them. I started to do some work with a church, a Methodist church, where I was working on the staff. We did some work, but then the Lord led me to start a ministry to help people coming. And I tell you, it was a big shock because people were coming depressed, discouraged, had no financial means, or no green card, or don't know where to start. They were just glad to get away from the 1980 coup. And many older people at first who could pay the way to come, they came. But coming with a little bit of money, have to pay rent and do other things, the money keep going and keep going. Afterwards, it became problems. We had to help some of the people to adjust. So they were depressed because of lots of stuff, and they didn't have health care. So many of them, we had to make a way to find a way for them to see doctors or go to the public health center and help them in that way. On the other hand, those who arrived in the U.S. and their relatives were already in the U.S., you had to send money. Very typical. It's a strain on those that are already here working. Most of them did not have good jobs. In my case, I'm very lucky. I work as an engineer, so it was not that difficult, but many people did not have the means to send money to their relatives at home who were stranded. So it was very interesting, as I said, to do a research from 1980 until 2000 at least, to go to Western Union and just get an estimate as to how much people send home to Liberia, you'll find it will be very alarming. As I understand, some of the people, the only survival they had were money coming from this side, to survive, not only in Liberia, but other African countries. And when they did travel, families here had to send money to them to travel. And when they got to where they were going, had to send money for them to be kept there. Not only that, if they decide to even bring them, family members had to put money together to bring them over. So those are some great challenges. The need for pastoral support was very great from 1980 and throughout the Civil War, even right now. Lots of counseling. We've done a lot of counseling to help people cope. One of the typical ways that Liberians address their griefs would be through laughing and jokes. But it can go so far and so further. You need professional counseling. Some of them were able to refer them. Some of them we've done that through pastoral counseling, but that's a rare need for that. Many of them, their properties, people who were well off at one time to come and have to be begging and asking even the children, for money or for things that they needed. That was very degrading to some of them, where the counsel some of them through some of those problems. There were many challenges, including the breaking news of relatives that have died in Liberia, particularly during the time when you had these, they call it the bombings and the rockets. I get news every day. There were news that you would call. The first person you would call would be the pastor to go and tell the family that some relative have died. And they would call me. And when they called me, I later learned that it was very important to make sure that the news was true. Because in my own case, I was told that my whole family, my mother and the children and everybody else were killed. And later on we found out that it was not so when the call came. So we had to deal with lots of those kind of issues, hearing news that somebody, father, mother, children, brother, sister, they have died. Now, once you hear that news, the first step is to find out how to break the news to the person. Some of them I had to go and find out from their relatives or friends whether they were on medication, high blood pressure, anything else, or find a good timing and tell them some of these things. And then deal with the cry and the moon. It's a very difficult thing to know your relative passed away and you're so many miles away and you can't go. Or even to know that your relative passed away and nobody told you. Or since then, they can't find the body or they buried it on the side of the road. So these were things that we had to deal with individuals as we dealt with people that were here in the diaspora. As I said again, there are many times that people abuse the system. There were times we get called from relatives who would say that so-and-so have died. And they tell us that it was not so. They wanted money. So people exploited the system just as well. So these were issues. Sometimes I would be asked, Pastor, should we send the money or shouldn't send the money? That burden on me. I have to go and do my own detective work, call in Liberia, and find somebody to confirm. And then sometimes if it's not so, then I have to come and tell the relative, and then other relatives say, well, we were jammed, we just need this. I said, but go ahead and tell them you need some money. But because you know what it is when your relative is far away and somebody have died, and then you say, no, they're not dead. We had lots of that. Again, I want to mention about the spiritual support and the programs and services, particularly the ministry that we organized. We were very instrumental in helping people with immigration matters. Many people go into court, we had to go along with them, explain to people the difference between the laws of Liberia and the laws over here. One of the typical problems we always had is that in Liberia, when the police stop you, you get up and you go to them, okay, and you talk what you need to be taught. And sometimes you can share with them some Saturday, if you will, in that sense. Over here, it's a different thing. When the police stops you, you stay in the car. So you have problems with many people, the police drawing their guns, and some people about to shoot them because they're thinking something else is wrong. When you get out of the car, you jump up when they stop you. The culture is different. How you deal with children when you have the discipline and dealing with how you relate to your elderly people. There were seniors who are used to having children calling them by certain names. Children here had a different attitude, how they would address their relatives. So all of these sort of problems we have to do The church has been very helpful, though. We were able to organize programs where we dealt with things in different programs, teaching them some of the cultural roots as to where they come from, so they cannot get into the system that they don't know who they are. Teach them some cultural values, how to respect the elderly, how to respect ladies, and all of that. But part of the things that we do, not only those that die here, we had to do wakes and funerals. I had to work with funeral homes, who can have services and wakes. We don't have it like you do in Liberia. In Liberia, you know, you have all night wake. You can't do it here. At least here, I've gotten most of the funeral homes to work with us. We'll have wakes go for 2 or 3 hours. I tell them to put us on the back end, so we have a chance to cry out and do what we need to do. So those are services, weddings and all those things are special. Baby's dedication, all of those things. The Irish American pastor, if you will, and that's cool in how to deal with our cultural things. So we have to be able to serve in that way as the need. Let me give an example. One of the things that I have looked at through the years is I look at children that were born here since 1980 in the church, and then students that came along with the parents. I've been tracking them very, very closely. And it's amazing that I've seen, because of the familyness, the church support to them, we have a lower problem with most of the children. We still call each other uncle, aunts, or other things in the family, kind of keeping the value, even though you are not your biological uncle. We do that. And just as a reflecting, from the time the church started to now, there are people that have gone through the church where we have people with medical doctors. I've named some of the names here. Medical doctors like Kazala Brandy, just graduated from Harvard Medical College, Melvin Johnson, and Tony, and soon to be, he'll become the first African American or black judge in some part of Atlanta. You know, he grew up right in the church. So you are seeing some of these people who are grown up to grow up in the church and nurture in the church. On the other hand, there are many elderly people that also came, and there are many of them that have special needs. They went through the war. One of them in particular is Deacon J.U. Brandy. Deacon J.U. Brandy is an elderly statesman. He was AD Camp. He grew up in the army, in the rank in Liberia. He ended up being AD Camp to President Talbot. He was very close to him, and later on he became minister, I think, of Coast Guard. But during the 1980 coup, he was one of those that suffered immensely. He showed me his back so many times. In fact, he's right now about 85 years old, and he's trying to go back home to go visit. But he talks about the pain, the suffering that he got. He said he was whipped every day at the sports stockage. He was whipped with a car tire and some other stuff. They put sand on it. Sometimes they were whipping until he would pass out. And sometimes they'll be in there tight in the pack, and they can't get no food to eat under terrible conditions. But still he survived. He's been very courageous. Since he's been with us almost 18 years or so, he has chaired 2 building projects. We have built 2 building projects, and he has been chairperson for both of them. And to show you his courage and his strength. Also, Mother Juscelda George, husband, the late Jane George from Banga, her son was killed right in her presence, from what I was understand, and he was thrown in the well. She had Sonny Boy was killed. Yeah, Sonny Boy was killed. That had a big impact. She had to run for her life. She walked from Banga all the way to what a town name, Salala, in the bushes. And at that time she was about 80 something. And she tell you the story and how she couldn't eat and all of that. But she lived to be almost 100 years old. She died in February. Recently, we just buried her. But she will tell you her stories and what the war meant. And she couldn't understand how our people could be so cruel, you know. And she said she had to follow some of the soldiers and tell them, look, I'm your grandmother, you know. So all of those things happened with them. Our church acquired a mission in Banga area. It used to be called Youth Mission. That mission was owned by the Flemister. One of our ministers was in charge of that mission. And about 5 or 6 years ago, he told us that the Lord led him to donate that mission to us. It's right outside Banga. It was called Youth Mission, but we call it now RCA Mission of Hope. During the war, that whole place was destroyed. And since the last few years, we have been sending money over there. We have reconstructed it. The school has been reopened for the past 3 years. It's been reopened. We'll continue to support them. We send containers, and hopefully we're trying to have a new plan to build some new structures and dormitories on the campus. And we just praise God for that change. But the war was very devastating. Have the church on the mission, all of those things were destroyed. The benches, they took them and appointed for firewood. So you can imagine some of the troubles of the war. Yes. Now, as I mentioned to you, that there are some challenges of Liberians in diaspora. I have a particular section here that deals with that. I will not go into details. You can read them later on. But some of the challenges including eating traditional foods. You know, you used to want sort of food, and you come here, and then you can't eat the American food, and it's very expensive. So that's some of the challenges. The upbringing of the children. The children are reared differently in our country. Over here, there's so many laws, and children tell the parents, I'll call the police on you, or some of the parents trying to spank the kids, say, I dare you spank me, I'll call the police. And so it's a very difficult issue, how to adjust, even how you respect your elderly, you know, how you talk to them. Those are some problems that they have. The elderly, even understanding the law, the visa, immigration, employment is another problem. Many times the church have to write references for individuals to get jobs, or maybe have to talk to people to find jobs for them. So those are all the things that immigrants face, most of the challenges in the U.S. The next thing, as I said, the immigrants face a home support, and for families and also relatives, relationships. As a pastor, many times the conflict between husband and wife, I have to deal with those issues because there are different roles that were played in Liberia that the husband and wife want to play the same roles here. Even vice versa, the wife will say, well, you the man, you got to pay all the bills. And in the meantime, you both working and don't have the kind of income where it may take two income to make the family work. On the other hand, you will find the man and the woman working full-time job, and he wants her to make cassava gravy every morning before they go to work. Or sometimes a Liberian marries to an American, and then there are a lot of cultural differences, and even though you have marital counseling, all the problems that people face. The other typical problems that we face in the diaspora, if like relatives come from home, the person be in Liberia, they cry, oh, I want to come, please send for me, you please send for me. And you'll come on that note. Sometimes they will tell you, if I come, if I get a job, I will pay you back. And sometimes you never get those payments back. Not only that, they come in the house, they carry the bills up, or they work in the house and they don't want to contribute towards the well-being of the house. They say, well, you know, you're my brother, you're my sister, I'm not so happy with the bills. As a result, there are many family conflicts. You have to bring them together, try to understand the whole system, you know, as to what it should be. A typical problem was to have the phone bills, you know. They know that at a certain time, you call home on the phone, the bill get high. And normally you call at a certain time, and the new person coming from home, they get on the phone, they high, and they make calls at home. When the bill comes, it's about $2,000. When a relative confronts them, they get angry. They say, well, you're my brother, you're my sister. Why are you complaining about the phone? But that's not a bill that you can just pay when you got rent to pay, food to buy, and all of that. So sometimes those tensions come to play. They have to be resolved and have family to move on. Sometimes families come, they have the argument, and they can't stay together. Sometimes they have to go their separate ways. Even right now, there are families who are not speaking to each other because of the kind of conflict. Have good intentions, and before you look, financial difficulties kind of creep in. So now the next issue that I want to talk about in the diaspora has to do with the TRC, the TRC process. As I shared with you, I have been working very hard to try to get our people to understand. But I can still share with you this, that they lack proper understanding of what the TRC is all about. First, they have not read all the mandate as you're trying to tell them. And so they have a different concept as to what the mandate of the TRC is, or either because of their own personal bias or desires, they want to see you as being a law enforcer, whereas the mediator and trying to get facts to promote certain things. So I have been making this cry that we need to find a way, even though you're almost to the end of your work, we may have to find a way to still do a lot of education, even starting with the ministers. The minister who should understand more. You understand some of the comments they make about the TRC that is a waste of time, that it will take us nowhere. And so I have to spend endless hours trying to tell them. I happen to be interim chair for Liberian ministers in Atlanta. And so we've been trying to educate them, to get the people to give statement. We have made a lot of progress in that area. But I think for the larger good, we got to continue to find a way to educate the Liberians, particularly in the diaspora, as to the importance and the work. That's why I'm surprised with all the numbers of people here. I know they got to go to work, but sometimes you need to make some sacrifice. Even if you drop in for half a day, the thing was well advertised. So we really need to get them to understand and how this is going to help them. Other problems here is cultural appreciation. Most of the people understand they want to be Western, but as I always say, I don't care how long a stick stays in the water, it can become an alligator. An African is an African. Don't be ashamed of your cultural attire. Don't be ashamed of your language. And so those are things we will start educating them to appreciate who they are. And not only that, but national patriotism. We really lack that. We talk about Liberia, but we don't really have the passion that we should. For example, I told somebody the other day that we may have to find a way to have intentional dialogues about Liberia so that we can document some of the issues. Because when you go to parties or social events, people talk. They do talk, but they talk under certain conditions when they are not in the right frame of mind because of maybe what they have partaken. So they talk, and the other problem is that if you just talk at a social gathering like that, nobody takes notes, nobody documents what the end results are. So we got to start finding opportunities for us to sit down and learn to dialogue and discuss, come up with suggestions, and move on with the suggestions. And that's what we need in the diaspora the most, to start to do some of those so that we can build our nationalism. Now, I will not spend too much time on this aspect. I will just highlight a few things I call the myths. And these are typical. Some people may agree and not agree with me. I'm not suggesting that what I'm saying here is law and gospel, but I have some things that I see are what I call myths. And if they are myths, then we need to find some ways to deal with them. I highlighted them and tried to explain some of them. They are 10. The first one is that Liberia's history started in 1822. That's a wrong myth. It did not. My contention is that we go way back. And even to be true, we need to start off from way to the Nile. Who migrated downwards? How we got to what we are. So historians have the tendency to start with history at 1822 or even 1847. We need to go back to that. Now, the next one is that the word Congo, and I put that in quotations. The word Congo refers to people who came from the United States. That's a myth. And I was very glad yesterday that Sister Paul Bull were able to shed some light in that. We won't understand. We have got it confused. And in my estimation, the word Congo is synonymous with economic empowerment. Those that were economically high in status, because you had people who were indigenous that were also economically strong. But somehow we mix the word Congo with people that came from here. It's not so. The word Congo, as you said yesterday, were those when the slave trade was abandoned, like my grandfather. They were en route to the United States, and when it was abolished, they had a whole ship to come to Liberia. So now you got Congo Town. But the whole phrase of Congo has been grouped with so many people. And I think that's the thing we need to work on, and how we define who a Congo person is. And even if you start to look at that, you start asking people who have intermarried, it'd be very hard to find anybody who is a real person that came from the United States. We have intermingled. So that's one thing that I just like to highlight as far as the myth. One of the myths that we say as a people, that Liberia problem is a country versus Congo issue. And in my estimation, I think it is more than that. You show that even those who are from the indigenous and even people from the other side that they call Congo, quote unquote, everybody can mess up. So it has nothing to do with people just being Congo. We have some problems from the past, that's correct, because of the problem we had, but I think our issue go more than that. Even right now, our issue is not only political. One of the stands that I make is that we got a lot of moral issues, we got a lot of social issues, and many, many other issues. We got even religious issues, and if we just focus on one thing and use that, I think we really miss a lot of things that we can do. One of the other myths that concerns me, and now even more so when I found out that I'm a part of the Mandingo group, People are saying that Mandingos are not citizens of Liberia. That's a myth. I'm from Banga area. You got a whole people there that have been born there. You go to San Nicolas, you go to almost every part. So we must begin to stop those things that bring about division to call certain group that they are not this. You know, the Mandingos have rights to Liberia like anybody else who were born there. The 1980 coup, the myth is that it was a revolution. And I disagree with that because, again, I don't think it was properly planned as it should be. The educational thing that were done by some of the people that did not teach the people well, they did not get all of the necessary tools to understand and put those things into place. A revolution don't just happen like that. You got things planned to make sure that there's end result. So you say you're having a revolution in the name of getting rid of corruption and all of that, then in the end is more than what you started with. So, of course, the issue of Liberia as America's stepchild, we can all see clearly now that even though we have some relationship, but in my opinion, and many people feel that the U.S. failed Liberia. Particularly, they could stop the carnage and the war we heard from the Secretary of State, the former Secretary of State who came to testify. But I think, though, we all need to rethink our relationships, not only just Liberians, Americans as well. We need to sit down, come to a common table, and reassess our relationships. One of the issues, too, that I think is a myth, that Tubman was the best president Liberia ever had. I don't really think so. He was a great president. He did well. But in my opinion, he was not empowering. In the sense is that more people were just relaxed, and it was not too good for us. He was a good man, but I don't think he empowered the nation to move forward. Unlike Talbot. Talbot had more plan and more things to try to propel the country forward. One of the myths is that war and fighting is a solution to our problems. Now we have found out that it's not a solution. If anything, it gets us into deeper trouble. So we got to start teaching the new generation that war and fighting, it does not solve problem and create more problem. Right now we are far back than ever. Our thinking, our relationships, our infrastructure, we're behind the curve. And so we gotta be very careful that what happened to us never happen again. We got to put system into place that we can disagree to agree. And if in case you do not want an individual in office, we have a way we can get them out in a way that do not cause the carnage, death, and destruction as we experience. The other one is that, and this I may get into some trouble for this, but I'm going to say anyway, we have a myth, and there are many things that people will say, they told our people our folks told the commissioner or the government citizen in the hammock. That's a typical thing that some Liberians will aspire, which is very divisive. But my concern is that as person who lived in Swakoko and in the Banga area, I saw many chiefs that were also carried in the hammock. Why? Because that was a traditional way of transportation and honor to a leader. Now, when the government sent an official over there to conduct business or so, they gave him or her the same courtesy. So for people to come back and say, well, we had to told your people in the hammock, if it was good for the chief to be told, then it's just good enough for a government officer to be carried. So the issue should not be on, you told me this. Not only that, there were chiefs who exploited people by having them to work on the farm for free, and who expected them to bring certain things to them for free. To me, that's also exploitation. Same way it was exploiting for a government official to rob the national treasury, all of that. So I said that these are some myths that we need to come to grips with as a people. And as I'm commenting on the last one about the war is not the answer, I'm suggesting here too that peace and reconciliation talking should be solution to our problems. The last one is about Liberia's problem, the political. As I said, I don't think so. We have more than just political problems. We have religious issues. An example, I was very much impressed when I asked the fellow that that will swear you in before you do. I asked him about how you manage when somebody is a traditionalist or maybe from the Islamic faith. He said, oh, we have the Quran, all of that. See, but in the past, a person who is a Muslim would be swearing on the Bible, you know. So we need to start to respect other people. The Constitution guarantees everybody the right to a religion. And a religion shouldn't be forced upon people if they don't want to. So in public era, we got to start having, if you will have a swearing ceremony or other aid, as individual, what's the faith? Or as in what they want to use. If they say the Bible, that's fine. But don't force it on them. Religious tolerance, we got to tolerate each other. That's the Constitution. So there are big issues in Liberia about the holidays and some other stuff. Yes, they need to be revisited to respect the religion of other people. The work ethics, we got a great problem with work ethics. Even through the war now, even worse. So we got that major problem. We got the thing with the social issues, how young ladies are used and abused, even having child out of wedlock. Those are things that the society will break down. We got to start talking about them. That is not right. You know, we don't want to talk about them. Those are problems we got to start talking about and let people know that if you want to do it the right way, there's a ways to do it. See, so I think our problems beyond political issue, we got many other social issues that we need to look at. With that now, I want to begin to end and wind down, and this is where I want to do some reflections. I want to give you some opportunities where we can press forward from beyond the wall. I believe in turning a new leaf, looking at new possibilities. And I'd like to focus on the first one very closely. In fact, to make sure, I want to read it word for word. Our history, that means the Liberian history, needs to be rewritten and taught. It has mostly been written by outsiders, by foreigners. Doris Banks, all the other people, they wrote for us, they wrote from their perspective. Even during the Civil War, the whole gamut, people have been writing books. None of them have been historic, whereby it helped us to document our history. It needs to be written by Liberians. And I know we got enough people are qualified to do that. Now, what I want to suggest though, is that the data that you collect through your process of the TRC, and I know they'll be used as the basis for some of this scholarly work, but I'm suggesting that the data that you got be used by an appointed team of scholars and elderly from each country of Liberia to write the history of Liberia beginning before 1822 and ending up perhaps with your final report as a cutoff point. But I just my suggestion, the political scientists can get on that as far as where they end to begin as a thing. But I think with your report, or your final report would be, that would be a good cutoff to start on. But that's just what I think about. Now, what I'm thinking, the history should be written at different levels. Primary level, secondary level, high school, and college levels. And then on the general level in the big volume that people can have. Why I say that? Because right now, unlike other African countries, we do not write and plan for our elementary levels. We are still importing books from the United States and Europe, you know. So we got to start incorporating those things into history. So I'm suggesting that we do that. What I'm thinking though, and I'm suggesting that a special wartime lexicon be established, because when generation comes later on, they start reading about Tabe and all that thing, they wonder what it is. So we need to find a way to document some of these lexicons that are unique to the war, so that when people begin to read in the future when we're gone, they can understand what we're talking about. Lastly too, it is therefore suggested that the TRC process include the commissioner asking witnesses for any document. And you're doing a great job, but today I was very much impressed. The other lady, when she came, she gave a book. There are so many books have been written since the war, about the war, that even have names, have pictures, all of that, videotapes, all available. So we need to start finding a resource way that we can gather those things and put them together. Now, if you ask an individual, say, if you come to give your statement, do you have any document to submit? They may or may not. But if they do, they can give that for the national interest, and which would be a good thing to help us for the future. Now, how you will handle those collection of the documents, you already got a lot of problems, I don't know, but I'm just saying it would be a good thing to ask for all the books that have been written on Liberia, make an appeal. People can bring them, ask people for videos that they may have, people who have some tips or whatever it is presented to you that can be helpful in the process of collecting our document. The other one that I would like to suggest is that there has to be a way for us to develop patriotism. I mean, rare patriotism of Liberia. So I'm suggesting that we embark upon some sort of campaign, patriotism campaign, some sort of slogan, and set up a committee or a group to help us go through the process so we can have to rethink Liberia first instead of our ethnic group first. So we need to find a way on how a special group can begin to develop something with the news media, with the linking, and that be a national campaign and go on for a period of time, not just one year, I mean a period of time, and go with the elementary school to bring about patriotism for the long run. I think that will help us in the long way. Thirdly, Liberia needs to appreciate the culture. Liberia needs to appreciate the culture. They need to have some sort of value and not to copy others. Not because somebody doing it. An example, our children, what they wear and what they do. An example, when I was in elementary school, it was so terrible that the Piscos were over there, they would wear sneakers, and because they were so lazy to wash the sneakers, they would wear a dirty sneakers. We as young people start buying sneakers, and you buy a new sneaker, you say you're wearing Pisco. My goodness. As I look back down through the years, I said, what my? Because the young man from college left from here and go to Liberia to work, and he doesn't have health skills, and he wears the dirty sneakers, we patronize that. We buy a new sneaker, put it in the mud, and say we went Pisco. We got to find a way to tell people that it ain't right. I mean, it's a fashion, but it ain't right. It's the other thing. Our history, just a handful of books are written towards educational. All of those are just kind of different things. So we need to try to encourage that. And what I want to suggest to you in this area of documenting our culture, twofold. One of them is not in there because I forgot to write it in. The first one is that I went to the Library of Congress last week, and I was impressed. The amount of history they got on Liberia alone. I mean, I saw a book in the Library of Congress that goes back to the 1800s that listed every tribe in Liberia. And it was this thick, and it has the listing of the common name of every tribe and what it means. And I bet we don't have such a book even in Liberia. So I'm saying though, one of the things to help us as a people, we need to have a kind of Library of Congress for Liberia. Something like that cultural center. And where the money will come from, we got a lot of iron ore, got Firestone, and all the people there. Some of the payments to the government, let's allocate certain amount of that for this kind of building of this kind of library. A library from each county where the elders and people can bring things and deposit it for generations yet to come. We got to preserve our culture and heritage, and we got to start now. Now, just to further push that, I know when you do your work and your report and all of that, you're going to have lots of material. I want to suggest that if it are possible, you find an institution here in the U.S. that can make copies of those things as a document to some of the things that we got, to preserve them. At least you have them in two places. So if in case there's a problem again, or the fire or anything, we don't just get all our documents going through the breeze, we get it no more. So I left with a bit far thinking in that area that maybe, I don't know the logistics or the cost, but you can find an institution maybe like this. If they got a big state school that would like to keep the documents, just like right now Morehouse College houses the King's paper. And so anybody has access to that. But knowing our people back home, it would take a long time before they build this kind of Congress library system or cultural museum to keep our documents. We may want to find a way, all the things that you've been collecting, our history, to get an institution over here as co-partners where they can either copy or some way in that area. I think it would be good. An example, you form many students here through the whole process here this week. I saw them taking notes. It would be a good thing. When you establish with that university, they can file their notes. And I'm talking about researching, because our children in the future may want to research some of the things, and it will be a good thing. If they have access to the papers in the format, they can do that. And so that's one that's very close to my heart. We'd like to ensure religious freedom in Liberia and instill moral values and characters. This is a pet peeve of mine. Again, as I said, the Constitution guarantees everybody the right to religion. So we must start learning to respect our religiousness, accept people for who they are, and don't downplay other people's religion. The schools, religious institutions, the churches, the mosque, in my opinion, those are the places for religious instructions, and the home, not in the public government-funded school. Because if you start teaching one religion in the school, then you got to let other religion come as well. So I'm suggesting that we need to look at that critically, that the mosque, the churches, the homes, and the religious institutions, they be the one to teach Bible in school. In the past, I know we have been very religious, all of that. You had one set of religion being taught in public schools, which is the government funding paid by every taxpayer from different religious persuasion. So it's my desire to see us be more practical. Let's keep the religious instruction where they belong. And let's focus on those things that we need to teach in the public arena when it's funded by public dollars. And many people may disagree with me, but that's how I see to bring about some of the discontent in the future. Liberia, we need to unite and work together. Number 5 is we need to ensure the freedom of the press. That's very paramount to any society. So we need to continue to cry that out. And the cultural media, we need to be very sure that what goes on the air is adequate. Not anything can go on the air and all that kind of thing. We need to have some way that we can look at that. And a suggestion would be for future planners to design and construct a new capital with an inter-highway system that will promote commerce and promote, inter-travel. I think that will build our country in a fast way. We need to be far-sighted, and that need to be on our far plan. This, I suggest also, number 7, is that we revamp the salary scales. I'm hearing that some people are making $20 per month. That's what helped to facilitate corruption. So it may not be able to happen right now, but I'm strongly of the opinion that we need to have people revisit that in a more practical way and plan for the future to help curb some of the corruption and help to establish small businesses. Number 8, we need to establish work ethics and standards and be sensitive to time. And then our young people need to know that war is not the answer to our problem. And lastly, religious institutes can play an important role. The churches, and I'm not being home to see per se, but the church got to be more than just a Sunday morning sermon. And in my opinion, the sermon is not just a soothing sermon. A sermon is to challenge people, and that you have programs and services that meet the needs of the people. So some of the processes with the ministers and religious leaders, we're going to start thinking on how our religious institution can be a more practical services to the people's daily lives, not just from Sunday to Sunday, but from Sunday every day during the week. So these are just some thoughts that I had on this. I want to thank you very much again for your hard work and for listening to what I had to say concerning these presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. Should we clap?